I think Pep Guardiola's wrong. You might be wondering, what is this asshole American, this armchair expert, know that Pep Guardiola doesn't? Well, science and math, which weirdly enough were my two worst subjects in school. I was more of a reading and history type of guy, but I can even use science and math better than Pep Guardiola is using it in this particular situation. Because I was going about my normal day, right? Which usually involves about 3 hours of forehead extension exercises, not going for a run, eating a shitload of food that I am currently in the middle of. Thank you. I know. I cooked it myself. It looks good, doesn't it? And I saw an article. Came from The Guardian. We love The Guardian. Good journalism happening there. And it was Pep Guardiola tells Man City to reduce squad size or I will quit. And my initial reaction to that was, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Because squad size is limited to 25 in the Prem. It really should be limited to more because the amount of injuries and attrition and number of matches these teams are asked to play. And yet somehow we have the world's greatest tactician saying that he does not want to coach that number of players and in fact wants to coach less. And I read the article, right, figuring that I must be wrong or that it had been titled in a maybe misleading way, or not misleading, but like, you know, a way where we weren't given the full context. So we'd read the article, which is fair. One could argue Zealandism thumbnails and titles don't necessarily tell you everything that the video is going to be about. I will strongly argue against those people. They have no idea what they're talking about. But they attempt to make the case in the court of public opinion. I'll never agree with them. But as I read this article, it came to my attention that I was in fact right. And Pep Guardiola has a really I don't know, a glitch in his thinking, a flaw in his plan that I believe has cost him before and will cost him again. So Will Unwin, thank you for putting this story together on these quotes, or else I wouldn't have known about it. And here are the quotes. I said to the club, I don't want a bigger squad. I don't want to leave 5 or 6 players in the freezer. I don't want that. I will quit. Make a shorter squad. I will stay. It's impossible for my soul to give my players in the stands that they cannot play. Now it happened to add players immediately. Now, obviously, English not being his first language, you kind of have to interpret the back half of that sentence. He speaks English a hell of a lot better than I would speak Spanish or any other language, and honestly, sometimes better than I speak English, so I don't mean to insult him in any way by saying that, but I'm just saying you kind of get the gist of what he's saying there, even though it's a little garbled, right? He's saying that he wants a shorter squad, and he has pain leaving 5 or 6 guys in the freezer. Be the way that he, in the freezer. Now, in the Premier League, you are allowed to leave 9 players on the bench, according to the AI overview on Google, which 60% of the time is right every time. And that means Pep Guardiola says he's leaving 5 or 6 guys off, which if you call up a full team of 20, that means 5 or 6 guys means you are basically at 25 or 26. Now, the average Premier League team is going to carry a couple of youngsters that can kind of come up because under 21 players are eligible for the first team and don't need to be registered. Which means if you go at, Manchester United, you probably got 27, 28 first team guys, right? Not Man U actually, because they only have like 12 first team players. But generally speaking, a healthy Premier League club is going to have somewhere between 25 and 30 available players who will play a first team match over the course of a season, with 5 to 7 guys that are 21 and under being a part of that. So what Pep Guardiola is talking about here is not unusual. In fact, it is quite normal. It's incredibly normal. This is the squad. I mean, if it's 25, he's talking about 5 or 6. That's the size of the squad registration. What are you going to do? Not fill it? I mean, that's who you can bring. If you play all of your Champions League matches, right? Let's say you get to the round of 16 of the Champions League after not finishing in the top 8 in the Champions League stage, which is the world that Manchester City was living in. That's 12 matches. You go on a solid cup run, let's say an average of 4 matches per cup. Now you're at 20 matches outside of the Premier League. That takes you to 58 matches over the course of a season. You, of course, are going to have a couple of friendly tournaments. Now, this isn't necessarily going to matter, but they'll just sprinkle in a few more matches for the beginning of the season, end of season type tournaments, and maybe assume one of those cup runs a little longer. You're looking at over 60 matches over the course of a season, right? There's a month and a half off, right? Typically a month and a half off, but let's just pretend it's a month. So we'll subtract 31 days. Out of 334, we divide by, let's say, 61. You have a match every 5.5 days for 11 months out of the year, roughly. You need more than 20 guys to be able to do that. Now, what is the reason that Pep Guardiola is saying this? Because if he had a very good reason, obviously, I wouldn't be here standing on my soapbox attempting to say I know more than Pep in this one particular instance. He says, maybe for 3 or 4 months, we couldn't select 11 players. We didn't have defenders. It was difficult. After people come back in the next season, it can't be like that. As a manager, I cannot train 24 players, and every time I select, I have 4, 5, 6 stay in Manchester because they cannot play. This is not going to happen. I said to the club, I don't want that, right? He also said it's impossible for my soul to leave those guys on the bench. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I realize Pep Guardiola is one of the greatest managers of all time. He's won a ton of trophies. He's coached basically a who's who of the best players of the last 15 to 20 years. But respectfully, you get paid to coach about 25 players. And he's saying 24 is too much for him to coach. And I understand what he's saying, that he really likes to drill down and have that developmental, progressive relationship with his players. But I think that his tactical and football idealism is actually winning out over the pragmatism that should be helping him here, which is that you need to figure out how to turn that shit down like 5%. So that you can have defenders that are there. Because he's pointed out the issue. He's like, we went through it. 3 to 4 months, we couldn't select 11 players. Yeah, because apparently you only want to coach 20 guys. We have a game every 5.5 days for 11 months. You want to coach 20 guys. Right? Now, forget about the fact that they play positions. That means more than half of those guys are playing in every single match. If you have 7 days with 3 matches in it, mathematically, there's going to be crossover in guys that are playing. Like, it's impossible for there not to be. You don't have a rotation. You have no allowance for injury, which is just like a reality of the sport. Right? And he's saying that it harms his soul, right? That it harms his soul. And I mean, it's the same thing as me. Like, look, you get paid, obviously, to win trophies, but a part of your job description is coaching the first team, which is 25 guys. I mean, I didn't know Manchester City hadn't been filling their squad registration at any point over the last couple of years, apparently. But saying it's impossible for your soul, sometimes you got to hurt people's feelings, right? Even in this business, right? I've been working in YouTube for a while. You've got editors, you got graphics people, and sometimes, for whatever reason, it's not a right fit. You got to fire somebody. You don't feel good about it, but you still got to do it. This isn't a charity. You know what I mean? And football is even way less than a charity. Right? You got to earn it. And if you only got 20 guys, you can't really ice somebody out that hard. Because who's fighting to take their... I mean, you got one guy fighting to take their job, but you need the other guy. You need you need a option. I don't know. I'm not a world-class coach. Pep Guardiola is. I've never won a major trophy. Pep's won a lot. I never played at a high level. Pep has. I am just going to assume he knows what he's doing and this will be fine. But the next time that I see Manchester City has injury issues, I'm going to circle this headline with a big red marker and mail it to Manchester and be like, I told you so. If you want me to have a job as a data analyst, invite me in. I'll go follicle for follicle with Pep Guardiola and see who comes out on top, I think I got a pretty good chance at that one. And I will try and come up with a way for him to feel hire another damn coach to coach the other 5 guys. And then, I don't know, somebody starts underperforming, send him over to the other coach and bring him back. There's got to be a solution to this, right? But if it's just your heart hurts and you can't coach 25 guys, you're playing 1 billion matches every year. You're going to need those 25 guys in that locker room. And you're going to need to get over the fact that you feel sad telling some guy from Kazakhstan that he's going to have to stay home in Manchester. Because there's no way he's that sad. He's the first Uzbekistan. I love the White Wolves. That was a total misspeak. Shout out to the Uzbek national team. Hopefully they make the World Cup. Dude's getting paid millions of dollars. He knows the way the game works. He's also the first Uzbek player to ever play in the Premier League. I doubt he's in a terrible mood all the time. Do it the Sir Alex Ferguson way. Be honest with him. I don't think you're very good right now. If you want me to bring you, you're going to have to get a lot better. That might hurt his soul or something. Was this video likely a massive overreaction to an interview that I don't want to say was taken out of context, but maybe has been blown out of proportion? Probably. But I read it and really couldn't believe my eyes. And now you just should be aware that if Manchester City has injury issues, it's Pep.